Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is day 240. Friday! Fun Friday. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Man oh man, it's another one of them days where there's so much to get to. I don't think we'll get to it all, but we'll give it a good try. Let's get started. Well, the number one topic trending on all the social media today is Donna Brazil. And this article that she wrote in Politico, which is kind of a teaser for her book, which is coming out next week, where she apparently trashes the Rotten Reverend Clinton. Okay, so people are trying to figure out what's going on, why is she trashing the Rotten Reverend, why is she trashing the DNC, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and all the above. What's going on here? What's up with Donna Brazil? Well, you know what? There's a lot of things going on with this. It's much, much more involved than just Donna Brazil. The fact that she just got paid a multi-million-dollar advance to write this book is just one of many things. And so I'm just going to go through some notes that I took and go through these infinitum and expand on this a little bit so that we can look at this book and this article that she wrote in Politico and try to look at it from the proper context in relation to everything else that's going on around Donna Brazil and the Democratic Party and the current state of politics. So, like I said, Donna Brazil, first of all, she was offered a multi-million-dollar deal to write this book, including millions of dollars in upfront advances. So there's one motivating factor why she may write a book. And no one's going to pay her millions of dollars to write a boring book. She's going to have to write a book where she gives up some salacious details. So Hillary's out there pitching her What Happened book, and along comes Donna Brazil's book, which is going to trash Hillary. That makes sense. It's exactly what you would do. It's about making money. That's one thing that we know for sure. For Donna Brazil, it's about making money. But it's about a lot of other things. Let's take a look at what's happened in the last 3 weeks or so. We've had the revelations of the Rotten Reverend Clinton and her husband, the Clinton Foundation, and their willingness to participate in a bribery scheme which resulted in Putin and his government cronies getting control of 20% of U.S. uranium. And we have since purchased 14% of that 20%. We have purchased that much uranium back from them, which is why Putin made the purchase in the first place. We're now paying the Russians for uranium, which we used to own. And I imagine the Rotten Reverend and her husband are still getting kickbacks from that, as well as many other people. So that's one context to look at this in, is look at what's going on around the political scene in the last 3 weeks or so with the Rotten Reverend Clinton. So we know now, about 2 weeks ago, that the Justice Department and the FBI has cleared this confidential FBI informant who is getting ready to make his case to members of Congress from a couple different committees. It's going to be a joint committee with the heads of these various committees getting briefed by this confidential informant. And we know that the case he's going to make is that the Rotten Reverend Clinton and her husband, the Clinton Foundation, knowingly participated in a bribery scandal, and the payoff for the Clintons was $145 million, and the payoff for Mr. Putin was getting 20% of America's uranium. And of course we have Mr. Guster, who was the middleman, and he got control of a Ukrainian mining company, and he was the central money launderer. He's the one that cleaned the money, laundered the money, washed the money for the Clintons. Now, it's very obvious to many Democrats that this scandal is not like the other scandals that can be covered up because it didn't happen under Comey. It's not something that happened really in the past. Yeah, it was a case that happened in the past, but the cover-up of it is something we're just now learning. And, of course, we've known about the money that was filtered into the Clinton Foundation, but now we're actually going to have the confidential informant who was working the case for the FBI who's actually going to present the hard evidence. This has many Democrats running for cover. We also have acknowledged in the last week or so that the Rotten Reverend Clinton and the DNC engaged in illegal activities, violations of the law in regards to federal election campaign law. Multiple violations, and they're still being looked at. So we have these various scandals that are all breaking about the same time, at the same time that the Russian narrative is collapsing. Well, so all these Democrats are aware of what is going on, and they know that the dam is bursting. They know that the walls are collapsing in on the Rotten Reverend and possibly her husband and those associated with the Clinton Foundation, as well as all these other allegations. The fact that she was funding the dossier, which has a lot of its own problems, besides just the fact that she's been lying about it for a year. The DNC lying about it. Still lying about it. So all these things are not happening in a bubble. Democrats, and particularly big donors of the Democratic Party, Democrats in positions of leadership, understand exactly what is going on, and they know what is coming. They know the storm is coming. They can see the storm clouds gathering in the distance. And they don't want to be anywhere around the Rotten Reverend or have any association to her when it all collapses. And you can already see that they are beginning to turn on the Rotten Reverend, because that's the way it works in the deep state. Once you become a liability and you're of no more use to anyone, they drop you like a hot potato. Not only that, they pile on. The Rotten Reverend Clinton thinks she's above all of this, but she's going to find out that she is not. She may be the one thrown under the bus. And right now, it looks like that's what's going on. They certainly are circling the wagons. So that is one perspective that we can take a look at this from, as far as the book that Brazil is going to write, which trashes the Rotten Reverend and Debbie Blabbermouth Wasserman Schultz and the DNC. She's also pretending that she didn't know about any of this until she investigated it. Well, that is bullshit. Donna Brazil was the number 2 person at the DNC. She knew everything. She knew everything. She's trying to get out from underneath everything before it collapses in on her, because she knows that she's complicit in some of these crimes. She was the number 2 person at the DNC. Do you think Debbie Blabbermouth Wasserman Schultz is going to take the rap? She's got enough of her own problems with the Iwan scandal. And she says she doesn't know anything about the dossier, the payments made to GPS Fusion. Well, then that would go to the number 2 person, and that was Donna Brazil. I think Donna Brazil is trying to cover her ass. She is trying to escape the fallout of what she knows and what many Democrats know is coming. She claims in the book that the Rotten Reverend Clinton essentially took over the DNC as early as 2015 and took complete control of the party financing, the strategy, and all the money that was raised. She claims that when Hillary was about to, after she had clinched the nomination, that the DNC was $24 million in debt because of the mishandling of the management of the money at the DNC by Obama and Debbie Blabbermouth Wasserman Schultz. This is Donna Brazil is going to be making this claim in the book. And so what that did, she says, is it put the Rotten Reverend into a situation where she came in and said, hey, you guys are $24 million in debt. You ain't got no money. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with all my money and my big donors, and I'm going to take over. I'm going to bring your balance sheet back up to where it should be. I'm going to infuse money into the campaign, but by doing so, I'm going to be able to completely control everything. And that deal was signed by Debbie Blabbermouth Wasserman Schultz and Robbie Mook. They signed an actual deal, a contract. whereby the Rotten Reverend Clinton would go to the DNC, fill their coffers with cash, rescue them from their debt problem, and therefore that would give the Rotten Reverend complete control over the party, finances, the strategy, and all the money raised and where that money would be dispersed. And of course, as we know, much of that money was intended to go to down-ballot races for Democrats in states around the country, but the Rotten Reverend Clinton, according to Donna Brazil, put about 98% of that money toward her personal campaign and starved the state Democratic Party of money so that they couldn't back their Democratic candidates, which is why they're saying that they weren't able to win very many seats in that election and why they lost so many. Brazil also states, it's quite funny in the article, in the political article, that she says she was warning people, Clinton and the people at the top of the campaign, that they were in trouble. And they didn't want to listen to her. And she says that she realized this because she was traveling around to the various states and noticing that there was, in her words, a lack of enthusiasm everywhere. Well, you know, you didn't have to travel around the country to see that, Miss Brazil, because those of us who were watching YouTube videos back all during the summer could see clearly, and we saw it right here where I live, that all of the Hillary Rotten Reverend Clinton Democratic locations where people could go to sign up, to be volunteers, to make phone calls, do some phone banking, put signs in their yard, pass out mailers, pass out the little things on the doors. There was nobody walking into any of these Clinton campaign headquarters in any of these places to volunteer, to donate money, or to do anything. There was nobody really fired up about the Rotten Reverend Clinton at all. Now, the other context to look at this is from the fact, what I've been saying now for months and months, is that the Democratic Party is in complete disarray. We'll talk about the money in just a minute, but they have a split in the party. And they thought that they could repair it. They thought after the election, Trump would win, and all those Bernie Sanders supporters and people who were mad at the DNC for screwing Bernie would come back home to the Democratic Party because they hate Trump so much. But they're learning that that is not working. These Bernie bros still hate the Rotten Reverend and the DNC worse than they hate Trump. They've even said, many of them, they're willing to lose 100 elections if that's what it takes to get rid of the corporate Democratic Party. So they have a huge split. On top of that, you have now Bernie Sanders, who's threatening to run again as an independent in 2020, you know, if he's still alive. You also have a very powerful labor leader, I think, from the SEIU, who's talking about forming a third party called the Workers' Party, or the Labour Party. It's going to be similar to the Labour Party in the UK, which is far, far left. Unfortunately, we live in a center-right country, so that isn't going to work very well. And the only thing it could possibly do is split the Democratic Party even more. And this is exactly where the Democrats see themselves right now. They see themselves as a party that's completely divided, and that is a problem they have not been able to solve, nor will they be able to solve it. It's not solvable with the people they have in there now. They would have to completely clean house and change the way that they're doing business. And they're not going to do that. They are not going to do that. Let's take a look at some other factoids. I remember Donna Brazil very well. Been watching her for a long time. Her loyalty really is to Bill Clinton. She loves Bill Clinton. I don't think she was ever a big fan of Hillary, but she had to put up with Hillary because Hillary is Bill Clinton's wife. She served in the administration of Bill Clinton. It was Bill Clinton that really gave Donna Brazil, launched her career onto the national stage, took her from a local type person, made her a national name, gave her really her big break in Democratic showbiz. She has a lot of loyalty and love for Bill Clinton, but I don't think she's a big fan of the Rotten Reverend. I think she tolerates the Rotten Reverend. We know that Donna Brazil, she's writing this book despite the fact that all during the campaign, and once Hillary won the nomination, she was out there campaigning with Hillary and defending Hillary, and she knew about all this stuff all the time. For her to sit back and play dumb means that she's totally incompetent or she's lying, and I don't think she's that incompetent. She supported Hillary 100%. Knowing everything that she's putting in her book, she supported Hillary 100%. And probably still would. She is still selling the Russian hack myth. She wrote a book about it. And even says that the emails that WikiLeaks released were doctored, even though they've been analyzed and proven that they were not doctored. Totally legitimate. She should know that. And she probably does. She's probably lying again. And of course, we all know that the Russians didn't hack the DNC, and she knows it too. We also learned right after a couple weeks after the Seth Rich murder, that George, what's his name? I forget his name, but you all know who I'm talking about. He's hanging out a lot in D.C., really working on the Seth Rich thing. He interviewed two people. I don't think he disclosed their names, but two people who were in the DNC, worked at the DNC, who told him that they overheard a very loud argument between Seth Rich and Donna Brazile, where it was screaming and shouting. Apparently Seth Rich was very unhappy about what was being done to Bernie, and he took his case to the boss, Donna Brazile. And they had a very, very heated argument. In fact, some people say there was two arguments. But we know for a fact there was at least one very heated argument with a lot of screaming and shouting between Seth Rich and Donna Brazile. I wonder if that's in her book. So what's going on here? Well, there could be a lot of different things going on here. It could be very well that they're simply playing a little game here of good cop, bad cop. Having Donna Brazile go out and trash the Rotten Reverend and the DNC and Debbie Wasserman Schultz to give all these Bernie bros and disaffected Democratic voters and donors the impression that good cop Brazile has come out and blown the whistle on all the bad cops at the DNC, and that this is going to be the thing that's going to be the healing for them, so that all the Democrats can come home and the donors can start donating again. So she could just be playing a little good cop, bad cop routine right here, trying to solve the problem the big problem that they have, which is they've got a split party and they've lost a big portion of their base, and a lot of people who donated a lot of money are simply not ponying up anymore. Could be a good cop, bad cop routine, although it could be fairly legitimate that maybe Donna Brazile is taking it personally, and she's finally maybe had enough of the Rotten Reverend out trashing her, as well as trashing her in the book and the DNC, and maybe it's a little bit of payback. Maybe it's a little bit of payback. We know she recently got demoted. She got demoted down to the Rules Committee. We also know that on the night of Hillary Clinton's massive, tragic, embarrassing, humiliating loss, that one of the people standing closest to Hillary when she realized that it was over was Donna Brazile. And we know that she turned around and attacked Donna Brazile. Attacked Donna Brazile. Screaming, shouting obscenities, called her something like a gorilla or something very nasty name, cursing at her, knowing good and well that she claims to be a very religious woman, Donna Brazile, but Hillary apparently dropping every F-bomb she could come up with in Brazile's face, and actually was reported that they had to actually pull Hillary off Brazile because they were afraid Hillary was actually going to attack her. Maybe it's a little payback. Maybe, like I said, she's just taking the cash, millions of dollars, and she's going to cash out because she knows that there's nothing really happening for her career-wise anymore at the Democratic Party. She's just been demoted down to head of the Rules Committee. So it could be a little bit of sour grapes. Could be that she's now joined. Another option is that maybe they have sat around the table with these big donors in the Democratic Party, the people who actually run the party, along with some other key players on the inside, maybe Tom Perez and others, have decided that they have to throw Hillary under the bus to save the party. It's possible that this is a coordinated effort between high-level Democrats, donors, and people that work at the DNC to try a last ditch, which is to throw Hillary under the bus. After all, she's done. She's toast. And after all, she's been throwing them under the bus in her book. Why not? Maybe they've fed up with Hillary. So it could be these things or a combination of all of these things. We also have the rotten Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren. She's rotten to the core as well. Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren, is now saying that, yeah, the primary was rigged for Hillary Rotten Clinton, despite the fact that Pocahontas endorsed Hillary and campaigned with her, knowing good and well that she screwed Bernie. Remember, Donna Brazile and Elizabeth Warren knew all of this, and despite that, they went and supported and campaigned for the Rotten Reverend anyway. Now they want to come out and say, oh, now they want to throw her under the bus. Before they were telling all of us that we should vote for her. Now they're throwing her under the bus. Shows how dishonest these people are. Should also be noted that the DNC has recently fired, after only 5 months, the finance director due to horrible fundraising efforts. Emily Mellencamp Smith only raised $51 total million, while the Republicans raised $106 million. But that doesn't tell the whole story, because you have to look at the debt. The Republicans have no debt. The Democrats, on the other hand, have about $40-some-odd million in debt that they still haven't paid from the campaign. They're being sued right now by dozens of vendors who they didn't pay. We are showing right now, according to the Republican and Democratic Party filings, that they're showing when you subtract the cash on hand from the debt, that the Democrats have only $6.8 million. That's nothing. That's like 1 month's operating expenses at the DNC. The Republicans have $45.8 million and are having no problem raising money, and they're raising money on Trump. They're raising money on Trump. So the Democrats have a massive problem. A massive problem. Their party is split in two, and it may be split into 3 or 4 before 2020 comes around. Their donors are not ponying up. The Bernie bros ain't coming back. The walls are closing in on the Rotten Reverend, and there will be many other people caught up in her bullshit. The FEC is looking into those campaign violations which do involve the DNC. The Congress is looking into the dossier which does involve the DNC. The rats are fleeing the ship. They're heading for shelter. They're looking to save their neck, and they're going to be willing to throw Hillary under the bus. Now you're going to say that the left-wing media will cover for her. Let me tell you how the media works, my friends. Yeah, they've been in the tank. They've been covering Hillary all this time. But let me tell you what. When that very first indictment comes down, whether it's from the FEC, whether it's from the emails violating the Espionage Act, whether it's from the Clinton Foundation and the pay for play, whether it's for her involvement in the scandal involving Uranium One, whether it's involving something to do with the dossier and various other things with that, regardless of what it is that actually results in the first serious charge against the Rotten Reverend, criminal charge. Once you see that happen, the entire left-wing media that's been defending her, supporting her, and propping her up for the past year and a half, they're going to turn on her. They're vultures. I've seen it before. I've been watching this for a very long time, my friends. I've seen the left-wing media turn on left-wing politicians just like the drop of a hat. And believe me, as soon as they get the word, they're just waiting for the word to get the phone call. Once it has been decided by the establishment, by the deep state that Hillary Clinton works for, that she is a liability, she is a problem, they will turn on her immediately, and they will pile on. Keep watching. Representative DeSantis, a very good man, says, we know without a shadow of a doubt Hillary and the Democrats colluded with Russia. Now, DeSantis is a very good man. He's also the man who is at the head of the committee that's going to be spearheading this organizing of meeting up with this FBI confidential informant and his attorney. Now, I had someone in my comment section, I don't know if it was Johnny or someone, it might have been Johnny. Someone was asking me if if I knew had any information about what's going on with that. Yeah, the FBI informant right now is working with Representative DeSantis. He is organizing the various joint oversight, the joint committees that are going to get together and take this information and the statement and look at the evidence from this confidential FBI informant. What the FBI informant right now is doing is getting all of his papers together. He's getting all of his documents, all of his phone conversations, all the emails, everything he's got, all of his information with his attorney. They're putting that together now to prepare for the hearings. These hearings will occur sometime in the next 2 to 4 weeks. Just as soon as he gets all of his stuff together and they can schedule it, it's going to happen. First, it will be a closed session with just the heads of these joint committees hearing and seeing the evidence of this FBI confidential informant. And of course, we already know his case is that the Rotten Reverend Clinton and the Clinton Foundation allowed themselves, participated in this bribery scheme that would net them $150 million while giving this uranium to the Russian government. And the point that he's making is that the Clinton Foundation, the Rotten Reverend, and Bill Clinton were quite aware of the role they were playing. And he's got evidence and proof, according to him. So first, in the next couple of weeks, maybe sooner, because they're not going to announce it, as soon as he gets his stuff together with his attorney, they are going to go ahead and have that briefing with Mr. DeSantis, Representative DeSantis from Florida, and the other heads of these joint committees. Then, once that happens, they're going to go back and look at everything, and then at some point, Mr. DeSantis says that they expect that they'll have an actual open hearing, where once they've digested all the information he gives them, they determine what they can talk about and ask questions about and get answers to in public and all that sort of thing. Then they're actually going to call for public hearings, and then they're going to, this man will obviously come out. He will no longer be confidential. He'll come out and go public, and he will actually speak to the Congress, and C-SPAN will be there, people will be there, we'll all be watching. So this is the plan that Mr. DeSantis, Representative DeSantis, right now is working on, and that's what we expect will happen. DeSantis is also calling for the declassification of the Obama-Comey FISA applications to show if the dossier was used to unmask Trump. He wants this stuff to be released to the public. He wants it to be released to the public for the media to look at as well. The declassification of the applications for the FISA warrants, which is what I've been talking about for months and months and months. What were the reasons for the FISA warrant? What was the evidence? How did James Comey sell that? And what role did the dossier play in that? These are very, very important questions. Very important questions. You have to know the answers. Even if we in the public can't know it, the members of Congress investigating this have to know that. This is absolutely critical. Critical. You cannot have this investigation and not have this information. They have to have a look at those FISA applications. It's absolutely critical. Now, I watched Hillary on The Daily Show so that you don't have to. But, I recommend that you watch it. Just turn the volume down so you don't have to listen to her cackle. Just watch and look at the Rotten Reverend. She looks to me like she's aged about 10 years in the past few weeks. She looks really bad. She looks like she's a woman who's under a tremendous amount of stress. She looks like a woman who may be drinking a lot, possibly taking some drugs as well. Probably drugs to sleep, drugs to wake up. I think she's heavily medicated, doing a lot of drinking, doing a lot of thinking. I think she's in bad shape. Look at her. Look at the video, and you just tell me. Turn the volume down and just watch. Look at do the visual. Just look at her. She looks bad. She looks pretty rough, and I understand why. If you were under all that shit, wouldn't you look and feel bad as well? I know I would be. I'd be highly stressed out as well. In this interview on The Daily Show, she admitted to paying for the dossier, but she says that it was opposition research. Then she attacked Trump for colluding with Russia. I kid you not. She said, "Oh yeah, we paid for the dossier, but it was just opposition research. But what about Trump colluding with those Russians?" She must be assuming that the people who watch this television program are so stupid that they don't realize that the source of the dossier is alleged to have been these Russians. And we know the names of 3 of the 5 now in the dossier. We know of the names of source A, B, C, D, and F. We know now who D and F were. One of them was Sergei Milian. And the other one is the person who's caught up in this Papadopoulos deal, who he was communicating with as well as Mr. Milian. Which is why I say Mr. Papadopoulos was a plant, probably working for GPS Fusion or the FBI. She says that the dossier didn't come out until after the election. Well, the investigations, the surveillance, the setups, and all the other things that were going on, the dossier is just one part of the overall operation that was happening. So that's just a lame statement. Hillary also says that Russia is a huge threat, yet she is the one that launched the Russian reset. She is the one that signed off on giving Russia 20% of uranium while banking $145 million to the Clinton Foundation. And of course, Slick Willie got $500,000 for a 1-hour speech to a bunch of nuclear energy oligarchs. Then, of course, Bill Clinton got a private meeting at the private home of Putin, which was, of course, videotaped by Russian reporters. And then she was asked about the fact that a lot of people just want her to go away. And she said it's because of sexism. There you go. The Rotten Reverend still can't face reality. The walls are collapsing all around her. As we can see, everyone around her is in the process right now, it's just beginning of throwing her under the bus. And it's because they see the storm clouds gathering. They know what's coming. They know she's not going to wiggle off the hook on all of this stuff. They know that this FBI confidential informant has got the goods on her. He's got the goods. He's got evidence. He's got tapes, emails, recorded phone conversations. He's got it all. And he's coming for the Rotten Reverend. And many Democrats know it. That's why they're throwing her under the bus, separating themselves from her as fast as they can. And pretty soon, she is going to find herself completely alone. Not even the Podestas will want to talk to her. No more spirit cooking for her. Probably even Huma will find someone else to hang out with. We know the Slick Willie doesn't hang out with her. He doesn't even live with her. He lives mostly out in Arkansas at the Clinton Library, hanging out with lots of young chicks. He and Hillary communicate via their lawyers. Thank you so much for tuning in. You all have a good evening, and I'll be back for the Saturday weekend edition. You guys have a good night. Goodbye.